Imagine a woman standing in a dimly lit laboratory, her hands trembling as she lifts a vial glowing faintly in the darkness. At a time when women were not even allowed in many universities, she dared to dream of science. She dared to change the world. Her name was Maria Skłodowska-Curie. This is not just the story of a scientist. This is the story of determination, sacrifice, and a legacy that still shapes medicine and physics today. Born in 1867 in Warsaw, Poland, Maria Skłodowska grew up in a world defined by struggle. Her homeland was divided, oppressed under Russian rule. Schools were censored. Opportunities were scarce. Yet from the very beginning, young Maria carried a hunger for knowledge, for truth, for something greater than the life she was given. She would go on to become the first woman ever to win a Nobel Prize, the only person in history to win two Nobels in different sciences. And yet her journey was not paved with glory. It was built with nights of hunger, endless rejection, heartbreak, and the slow, painful toll of the very discoveries that made her famous. This is the story of Maria Skłodowska-Curie. Maria was born on November 7, 1867, the youngest of 5 children in a modest home in Warsaw. Her father, Władysław Sklodowski, was a teacher of mathematics and physics, and her mother, Bronisława, ran a boarding school for girls. Education was in her blood, but tragedy would shape her early years. When Maria was just 10 years old, her mother died of tuberculosis. Her sister Zofia had already passed away from typhus. Loss became an early teacher in Maria's life, hardening her spirit, but also deepening her empathy. At school, Maria stood out immediately. She absorbed knowledge with intensity. But Poland was under Russian control, and Russian authorities restricted higher education for Polish youth, especially for women. Universities in Warsaw were closed to them. Maria's only option was an underground network, an illegal flying university, where secret lectures were held in apartments, away from the eyes of the Tsar's officials. There, Maria's passion for science ignited. She studied physics, chemistry, and mathematics in secret, often by candlelight, with a hunger that no law could suppress. She dreamed of studying in Paris, at the Sorbonne, but her family's poverty made it impossible. Still, Maria did not give up. She struck a deal with her older sister Bronisława. Maria would work as a governess, sending her earnings to support Bronisława's studies in Paris. Later, Bronisława would return the favor. For years, Maria worked tirelessly, tutoring children by day, studying by night. She often wrote in her diary about despair, about feeling trapped in a life of servitude. And yet, in every word, there was also hope, a promise to herself. She would one day walk the halls of the Sorbonne. Finally, in 1891, at the age of 24, Maria made her way to Paris. She adopted the French version of her name, Marie Curie, and stepped into a new world. Paris was vast, alive, and intimidating. The Sorbonne was a cathedral of science, but Marie arrived with little money, inadequate clothing, and poor French. She lived in freezing garrets, often fainting from hunger because she spent her meager funds on books instead of food. Yet, she excelled. Within 2 years, she earned a degree in physics, graduating first in her class. A year later, she earned a second degree in mathematics. Her brilliance was undeniable, but her struggles were not over. In this new world, she would soon meet the man who would change her life forever, Pierre Curie. And together they would embark on discoveries that would light up the darkness. Marie Curie had made it to Paris. She had proven her brilliance. But the path ahead was not easy. At the Sorbonne, her male peers still doubted her. Professors praised her intellect, yet society whispered, "A woman in science?" It was unheard of. Still, fate intervened. In 1894, Marie met Pierre Curie, a physicist 8 years her senior. Pierre was quiet, thoughtful, a man devoted to research rather than wealth or fame. He had already made important contributions to crystallography and magnetism. When he met Marie, he saw not just a woman, but a mind equal to his own. Their bond was immediate. They spent hours walking the streets of Paris, discussing mathematics, physics, and dreams of discovery. It was a meeting of two souls bound by science. Pierre proposed marriage. At first, Marie hesitated. She dreamed of returning to Poland, of teaching there. But Pierre promised he would follow her anywhere, even to Warsaw, if that's what it took to remain by her side. In 1895, they married. Instead of jewels, Marie wore a simple blue dress, a dress she would later wear in the lab. Their honeymoon was spent cycling through the French countryside, talking about science, laughing like two children. It was love, but also a partnership destined to change the world. At this time, the world of physics was shifting. In 1896, Henri Becquerel discovered that uranium emitted mysterious invisible rays, rays that seemed to come from the atom itself. It was puzzling. The Curies saw an opportunity. Marie chose this as her doctoral research. Day after day, she measured these faint emissions with instruments Pierre had designed. To her surprise, the rays were not limited to uranium. Certain ores, like pitchblende, emitted even stronger radiation. Something hidden inside them was far more powerful. This was the beginning of radioactivity, a term Marie herself coined. The Curies worked under brutal conditions. Their laboratory was little more than a shed, damp, cold, with cracked walls and broken floors. They stirred vats of crushed ore with iron rods, their hands blistered, their clothes soaked. For years, they reduced tons of pitchblende, boiling it down again and again, searching for the invisible element that gave off such strange energy. At night, their notebooks glowed faintly. They didn't understand yet, but they were surrounded by radiation. Finally, after years of toil, in 1898, they announced the discovery of two new elements: polonium, named after Marie's beloved homeland, and radium, a substance so powerful it seemed almost alive. The world was astonished, but discovery came at a cost. The scientific world doubted their claims. Marie, as a woman, faced constant skepticism. Journals hesitated to publish her work. Invitations to lecture were sent to Pierre, not her. Yet Marie pressed on, confident in the strength of evidence. Worse still, money was scarce. The experiments consumed everything they had. They lived frugally, often sacrificing comfort for science. The glow of radium may have illuminated their beakers, but it also burned their skin and weakened their bodies. The danger was invisible, and yet it grew each day. By 1903, their perseverance was rewarded. Marie became the first woman to earn a doctorate in France. That same year, the Nobel Committee awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics to Henri Becquerel, and initially only Pierre Curie. Pierre protested. He refused to accept unless Marie's name was added. At last, Marie Curie became the first woman Nobel laureate in history. Their discovery changed everything. Medicine, physics, chemistry, all would never be the same again. But the weight of fame, responsibility, and danger was only just beginning. The Nobel Prize had changed everything. Suddenly, Marie and Pierre Curie were no longer obscure scientists in a damp shed. They were international celebrities. Journalists called them the discoverers of a new force of nature. Laboratories across Europe rushed to replicate their findings. Radium became the most valuable substance in the world, worth more than gold. But fame brought pressure. Invitations poured in, honors were offered, yet their financial struggles remained. The Curies refused to patent their methods. They believed science belonged to humanity, not to profit. And so, while others grew rich selling radium treatments, Marie and Pierre continued their research in near poverty. Every day they handled glowing samples with bare hands. They stored vials of radium in their pockets, enchanted by the blue-green shimmer in the dark. They did not know the danger. Their hands blistered, their health weakened, but still they pressed forward. For Marie, there was no question. The work was everything. The pursuit of knowledge, the hope that science could heal, that discovery could elevate humanity. This drove her forward. But life had other trials waiting. In April 1906, tragedy struck. Pierre Curie, walking across a rain-soaked Paris street, was hit by a heavy horse-drawn cart. His skull was crushed. He died instantly. Marie was devastated. The man who had been her partner in science and life was gone. Newspapers mourned, students wept. But Marie withdrew into silence. She buried herself in work, pouring her grief into research. She wrote in her diary, "Your absence fills the whole world for me. I wait for you, I long for you, you who will never return." And yet she did not stop. The Sorbonne, in a historic move, offered Pierre's professorship to Marie. She accepted. On November 5, 1906, she walked into the lecture hall where Pierre had once stood. The audience was silent, expecting her to falter. Instead, Marie began where Pierre had left off. Calm, precise, brilliant. The torch had passed. She became the first female professor at the Sorbonne. Marie's determination did not waver. She continued isolating radium, refining its properties, measuring its power. By 1911, her efforts were recognized again. The Nobel Committee awarded her the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery of polonium and radium, and for advancing the study of radioactivity. This made her the only person in history to win 2 Nobel Prizes in different sciences. Yet even at the peak of her glory, she faced cruelty. Newspapers published scandalous rumors about her private life, accusing her of an affair with a fellow scientist. Riots broke out outside her home. Male colleagues turned against her. She was called an outsider, a foreigner, even a destroyer of families. But Marie stood firm. She told the world, "There is no connection between my private life and my scientific work." Through grief, through scandal, through the invisible burns of radium, she pressed forward. A woman against the world, a scientist against ignorance, a light against the darkness. Marie Curie stood at the height of fame. 2 Nobel Prizes, the Sorbonne's first female professor. But life had more battles in store. The world was changing. The thunder of war was about to echo across Europe. When World War I erupted in 1914, Marie could not stand aside. She knew radium and X-rays could save lives, but hospitals near the battlefield had none. So she acted. With the help of her daughter Irene, she developed mobile X-ray units, small vehicles equipped with machines that could scan shattered bones and locate bullets. Soldiers called them petites Curies, little Curies. Marie herself drove into battle zones, operating machines under fire, risking her life for the wounded. She trained more than 150 women to operate X-rays, creating a legacy not just of science, but of courage and compassion. By war's end, it was estimated that over 1 million soldiers had been treated thanks to her machines. After the war, Marie returned to science. She had a new vision: research centers dedicated to studying radiation and medicine. In